Hey, it's Shannon from iHeartRadio Canada, joined by Josh Groban. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
How are you doing with everything going on?
Wow. I mean, I think I feel very lucky. I feel very lucky as somebody who is in music. I get to make music, so it's we're all doing the best we can, and I feel very fortunate right now.
Yeah, that's so true. The thing that I find so fascinating about you is a lot of things throughout your career, but definitely where you started. It kind of seems like you were just like shoved in the deep end when you first got your start. Did you ever have a sense of like imposter syndrome? Like, what am I doing with all these big leagues in the beginning?
Oh, we're going right into therapy. I like it. Let's just dive right in. Where's my Kleenex?
Yeah.
Um, Absolutely. I mean, the short answer is yes. I think that you know nowadays, I mean, I feel like a lot of young artists are kind of being raised on the idea that you can kind of be a star, a superstar in the corner of your living room before you get a big record deal. A lot of people are starting to gather fan bases before they get signed to the big leagues. And when I got signed, it was still at a time when people don't know you until they know you. And I think that for a 17-year-old kid who was already kind of an introvert and pretty shy and kind of had to be told that my voice was something special because I wasn't really like out there with stars in my eyes trying to do it for myself. Um, to be shot out of that cannon was a lot to take on very early on. A lot of pressure, a lot of yeah, like you said, a lot of doubt, a lot of self-criticism, a lot of ideas of kind of like, well, fooled them again. And it's not until it's the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours thing. It's not until you have that experience under your belt and you look back after 4 or 5 years and say, oh, you know what, you actually had it going on. You were doing good, and you should be proud of yourself, and you should go back to that younger self and give him a high five because that was actually really hard, and you kicked butt. So I'm trying to every day uh, be more in control of what's been earned and what feels good. I mean, trusting your gut, and so yes, the answer is yes. But I'm enjoying my career in the last 10 years far more than I enjoyed, even as extraordinarily successful as it was, more than I enjoyed it the first 10.
Why is that? Is that more of like just a sense of self?
Yeah, I think that first of all, for the kind of singing that I do, you don't really grow into your voice until a little later in life. So strictly from a technique standpoint, you're still a student. If you're 18, 19, 20 years old and you're being asked to sing these songs, you're on stage kind of trying to wow people with this style and this performance, but then off stage, you're kind of going, oh man, like I need to work on this, or I need to do my scales better on that. And you never stop going through that as a singer. I think all singers want to learn forever. Tony Bennett said he's still doing vocal warm-ups at 90, but but I think that because I had this idea that I was still a student who was now had to very quickly become a professional, I was both learning, growing, going through, inner turmoil of what am I trying to do? What am I trying to say? Whereas if I had just gone through school and gone through college and everything, I would have been able to fall and pick myself back up. I had to go right into this masterclass of pressure. And now, I can, the key word is balance. I think I'm trying to find more balance. I'm trying to open with a little more bravery all the aspects of what it is I like to do. And when you start to realize your fans are actually going to come with you for all those extracurricular things and all the things that give a wider picture of who you are as an artist, you can have a little more fun. You don't feel like you do when you're early on that it's just going to be passed along. You're here. You did it. You made it. You planted. Now enjoy and just sing from your heart.
Yeah. What do you mean by balance? Do you mean in regards to like your music career as a whole or like life and work balance?
I think all of the above. I think that in life and work, I've tried to make time to smell the roses, to enjoy and take time, more time, be more assertive, I think, of when I need time to recharge, because you start to realize that the more you give yourself the time to recharge your tank, the better artist you're going to be, the better singer you're going to be, the better performer. And you don't think that earlier on. You just think, I have to knock down every duck that's put in front of me. And if I miss one, I'm disappointing people. And I think saying no is a really powerful thing. And so I'm trying to get better at the idea of saying no in service of being better later, and giving people what they didn't even know they wanted later. And in my life too, life and in work, I think early on I had a brand that was put out there very, very strongly. And I think a good 68% of that was totally me and my voice and what I like to sing and the seriousness of why I like to sing it. And then there was a whole other, I'm terrible at math, but the whole other side of that percentage that, that I felt was missing a weird, like we're all different things. And I felt like if I did comedy or if I did something a little off the beaten track or did a collaboration that wasn't really in my world, that I would just be abandoned or people would think that it was horrible. And you start to dip your toes in those waters and realize people are with you, and it actually paints a better playbook for yourself that makes you more unique in the business. And that's been a lot of fun to discover.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool about you is that you like have this obviously angelic voice, but then you can go and do a comedy movie and act and you just like blow it out of the water, which is just insane.
Well,
Um,
thanks. I mean, I think we all, I know, I'm friends with like heavy metal singers that off stage are the cuddliest, they just want to do, watercolor. And I know singers that are performers that are, angelic on stage, and then they go off stage and they want to be in a heavy metal band, and they're dealing with all kinds of inner turmoil. And, it's important, especially now we have virtual and internet to paint a better picture of who we are, that we take advantage of that and we show that, because it shows other people that they're not alone in being a dichotomy either.
yeah, totally. And what I like about so much of you online too is that you are very authentic, and especially when you talk about things like mental health and stuff, which I think is so important for someone as influential as yourself. How have you personally been coping with mental health, especially with everything going on this year?
Well, this is unprecedented territory, I think, for everybody. I think people who have not um, experienced, mental health challenges in the past are probably experiencing them for the first time during this. It's a perfect storm for a lot of people, because just as human beings, whether you've suffered from it in the past or not, the idea of fear of the unknown, uncertainty, not feeling vital in our lives, isolation. You don't have to be diagnosed to have things going on in your head that make this a very, very challenging time, to say the least, for everybody, I think, right now. For those that have already had those challenges, like myself, going in that this is going to be a storm, that you have to really use everything in your power to kind of outwit it and take the steps necessary to cut it off before it begins. So for me, trying to just do simple things that I feel I can accomplish, like write a line of a song, cook something new, check in with a friend, learn, take a language lesson on your phone, just stuff that keeps you feeling like your engine is still turning. But connectivity is everything. We're social creatures. We need to feel not alone in this world. And when we're all being told, rightfully, that we need to separate and we need to be safe, it's more important than ever that we reverse the trend of how negative social media can be, and all this technology can be, and actually use it as it was originally intended, which is to bring us a little bit closer together. So I'm trying both in person and also in my personal life, and also musically with the virtual concerts.
Totally. And I feel like people like have really found music as a way to bring everybody together as well. And you mentioned, yeah, virtual concerts. How is this? You have a show coming up on American Thanksgiving, different than Canadian Thanksgiving, but then
That's
you
right.
also have a show, a Christmas show coming out. But this is your first Christmas show? How is that even possible?
I know. I'm one of those people that, like, I kind of feel like if I did it, and that album was such a juggernaut. And I think at the time, I was, talking about saying no to protect yourself. And you want to, a lot of people say, like, I'm not saying no, I'm saying no so I don't resent you, and I think that's a really good way of looking at it. And I think with the Christmas music, I love that music so much. It was meant so much to my childhood and to that spirit and that warmth at that time of year. That year, I think, became so, I was so infused with the Christmas thing that and the opportunities and the offers and the tours and things like that, I'm thinking to myself, if I go full bore on Christmas, I'm going to wind up hating these songs, and I want to keep loving them. And so I I just decided to just give it a break, just give it a rest, and put out new Christmas music every now and then, and feel very lucky that Noel became kind of a chestnut album for people to pull out every year. And that's the beauty of a record, is you can say goodbye to it and people still listen to it. Um, but this year especially, when I'm feeling sad about potentially not being able to see my family this year for Christmas, that so many families around the world are going through the same thing, I thought, what better year to do my first ever holiday show than to do it for you know, families around the world that are needing to connect in that way. And hopefully this music can bring some peace and some warmth to families that are going through so much right now. And so we decided to finally do it. And I'll do some in person again someday soon. But this is the right way to do the first one, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like you have been like a staple for so many people, whether it's like they're going through a funeral or a wedding or a birth of a child. Like your music kind of is used so much in situations like that. How does it feel to sort of have that, like, for a lack of a better word, like responsibility for so many people?
Well, it's nice. First of all, it's nice outside of your bubble when you hear stories about how your music affected people and how a song of yours was a soundtrack to a really important moment in somebody's life, sometimes celebratory, sometimes sad. But ultimately, music is there to be our partner in that. My music has been my favorite since I was growing up has gotten me through college, got me through breakups, gotten me through grief, gotten me through great celebrations. And it's a very isolating experience being a solo singer. You're in a vocal booth, you're in a hotel room, you're on a tour bus, you don't sometimes get the full picture of how your music is affecting people after you slide it under the door. And so, yes, it's a responsibility, but more than that, it's, I think, a rejuvenation, and it's a validation that what you're doing is helping. Is not just a periphery. Because we can all get in our own heads about, does it matter? Am I people liking it? You read reviews, you read things, you do interviews. And my favorite moments, and I feel very lucky to be the kind of celebrity that doesn't have a paparazzi circus and doesn't have a hype, and I'm not like, you know, going to all the big fancy things. When somebody comes up and says something to me, it's a handshake and your music meant this to me. And I think that just makes me feel amazing. It makes me feel like this is why I do what I do, and refills that tank that I talked about, that you want to keep doing it.
Totally. I've already gone over my time, but I'm going to sneak in one last question just because I'm
Sure.
a huge fan of The Office and I loved you
Oh
in
yeah,
The
me
Office.
too. Oh, thank you.
Do you have like a favorite memory from being on the show?
Well, I just know that. I mean, I was an AMS. I mean, that show, I think I speak for a lot of people that rewatching episodes of that show has also been very therapeutic for me during this time. We need great comedy, and that show does not fail. And so, of course, I was watching it like everybody else, just loving it. And Mindy Kaling, who's a friend and who's just so brilliant, she reached out on Twitter and she said, "Hey, we're shooting an episode, and we think there's a really fun role for you. What's your availability on this night, on this day?" And I said, "Oh, I'm doing a show at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, but the next morning is my day off between shows." So I took my bow at the Staples Center. I got my car, I went to my house, and I slept. And the next morning, I got to show up on set and at Schrute Farms. So for anybody who's a fan of The Office, to be able to be part of a scene where almost the entire cast is there at once, it was the most fun. And it was shot outdoors, so we were out in the fresh air and just being able to talk to so many incredible cast members. No, I was freaking out on the inside, and I've been able to actually make cameos in so many of my favorite comedies. I mean, I love comedy. Before I made music, doing improv and being weird with funny friends was like my therapy. It was my way of getting out of my own shell. So the fact that I get to sing music, serious music, and then also go off and do really weird and funny comedy, I feel like the luckiest person out there.
Yeah, the best. Josh, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Pleasure.